Ha 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 ha. It is I, Eris von Jabberwock, heir to the Jabberwock name. Hello, everyone. Hello, Shadox. I thought you were Eris. Am I wrong? Well, I am Eris. I am Eris von Jabberwock, noble heir to the Jabberwock name. Dang, 1 minute late. Hello, Cantaloupe. Welcome, welcome. You may be late, but game hasn't started yet. And hello, Star. Not horror, I'm out. I don't know how horrifying it is. It's a stream that warrants, warnings that you will see before I enter the game and throughout. Also, Star. Hello, Edward. No, I'm Eris. Imposter. Not you too, Lope. I'm Eris, the one and only. It's the impasta, served with an amazing sauce. So, as you all can see, and all the jokes in chat are referencing to, I am playing a game called Who is the Red Queen, which is a horror visual novel set in the world of Wonderland. Hello, Rip. You can completely sidetrack my plans with one stream. I mean, with one redeem. You threaten me with it every time. Hello, Rip. I'm doing well. Oh, yep, there's the warning. So there's the first taste of the warning. If no one wants to see content involving that, I suggest coming back for a different one of my streams. Oh, well, Star, there's the stream elements warning in chat. There you go. She got it. Yeah, horror visual novel. I mean, I'm certain they exist. I think this would be the first one I've actually played. Technically. I just see that it has the tag horror when I put it in the thing, so I guess it's a horror game. I would have assumed it was more of like a mystery visual novel, but visual novel nonetheless. Now then, let me pause the music so we can get right onto the game. Game? Visual novel? Visual novels are games. Let's see. There you go. There's your other warning. I say in a very cheery voice. Jeez. Let's see, let's see. Oh, wait. Should I spruce myself up a little bit? No, that'll be for tomorrow. Never mind. There's also a Sucker for Love, a game. Oh, right, there's that. Is that one a horror, though? It seems more jokey. Unless I'm entirely wrong. I should also premise that I know very little about this game. Presented by Fornoki. Or Anoki, I don't know how it's meant to be said. So, this is our menu screen. It has no music, as far as I know. I think it was like created in for like a event or a game jam of some kind. So it's probably also really short. Maybe. Once again, I don't know. It's no jokey in some parts, but the rest of the game is legitimately terrifying, especially the third chapter. Ah, okay. That's kind of like a thing for visual novels, huh? They tend to like turn the lyric. Well, I guess that's just because it's a story. I'm gonna start rambling on about the workings of visual novels like I know about them. I tweaked the settings. Hopefully the audio and stuff is okay. But let's see it all going forward. So, also, yes, what is it, Shadowx? Hello, Sun. Is this Raid Shadow Legends? No, it's Who's the Red Queen. Oh, you guys can't see my cursor. The cursor is nice and stylized. It's pretty. Ah, yes, Doki Doki Literature Club. That is probably the de facto horror visual novel. Wait, doesn't Corpse Party also have a visual novel? Or is it RPG horror exclusively? I thought, well, you see, there's actually a bit of a thing about that. The Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts are technically two separate entities. The Queen of Hearts appears in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, while the Red Queen appears in Through the Looking Glass. People often combine them, though, i.e., like the Red Queen of Hearts and stuff. But my understanding of it, the Red Queen is a separate entity from the Queen of Hearts. Will the real Red Queen please stand up? Okay, after learning about the shark monster from Into the Looking Glass, I'm wondering what else similarities there are to us in the manor. Alright, let's hop in. Oh, literally. Falling, falling, falling. I was falling. Ooh, I like the music. Is the volume okay, everyone? Down this rabbit hole with no start nor end, I was falling. Where had I gone? Where could I go? Bad falling posture. Yeah, she's not gonna have a good landing. As if I were forgetting something very important, I fell down, down and down. There was sparkling, shining darkness. Too bright to be dark, too dark to be bright. I must have been chasing after someone, after something. Like a girl whose curiosity was piqued by a rabbit with a watch. I was falling, falling, falling down, 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 again, again, again. This endless well seemed to lead everywhere, yet nowhere at once. Either the hole extended very deep, or I descended very slow. Was I truly even going downward? Perhaps this was all a dream, a fever dream, or in more words, a fantasy that would be as soon forgotten as it was had. I held just one certainty. I was Alice. Alice was me. The clock ticking reminds me of Unisonis. Memento Mori. Now then, just how long was I supposed to keep falling? The air brushed past my fingers, my cloak ruffling upward. A quiet humming breeze caressed my cheek. As if I could hear someone's voice, a pleasant voice, a woman's voice. I strained my ears for whispers in the wind. Alice, what a time for madness, without a bit of fear or vertigo. Did you not have focused on topics more pressing? Like the darkness or the light, or how you couldn't awaken from this dream. But even now, you were just falling, falling, falling. What does it matter? And with a thump-thump, I came upon soft grass, and the fall was over. Not a bit hurt, I forced myself to my feet. Up above my head, the firmament whence I had fell, not a tear in its blue canvas. Why is someone calling me now? Shoo! Down about my eyes, only unfamiliar surrounded me. This is Alice in Wonderland, alright. I started on an exploratory stroll. I still have to read you all Alice in Wonderland. Oh, Lania? Soon, I stumbled upon a rabbit who looked like a girl, or a girl who looked like a rabbit. Perhaps the correct answer was that she was both a girl and a rabbit. Not lingering much longer on the species of the rabbit before me, I called out to her. Excuse me. Where was this place? Why was I here? How could I leave to return home? I thought of what to ask her, but she recognized me as soon as I spoke, so my question was lost in my mouth unasked. Alice? White Rabbit? Have you seen Her Majesty? Do you know where she's gone? Where she could go? Her Majesty, the Red Queen. She must be taking a vacation of sorts. I only wish that she could have left this little rabbit a note. I'm in a bit of a panic, you see. The land can't run without its queen. Please let me know if you catch sight of her. I nodded. Who this Red Queen was, I had not a clue, but a tingling déjà vu. Still, my acceptance of the request let the White Rabbit breathe out a sigh of relief. Just as I prepared to pose my own questions, she straightened her back in surprise. I'm afraid I have to go. I'm going to be late. Enjoy the look, Weedy! Right, Star? It is Lania. The White Rabbit dashed off. Thank you, Weedy, for reminding me of my noble upbringing, for the spine straightening. Oh, and the stretch and hydrate. The White Rabbit dashed off. I wanted to ask some questions. Never mind that. Follow her, Alice. Although I chased after her with only a moment's pause, when I turned a corner, she was nowhere to be seen. Hand emerges from a hat and summons me. What a neat trick to learn. The magicians never expect me. Hello, Meso. I found myself in a garden meticulously kept. Oh, it's like the garden in the manor. Though, there'd be more rose bushes. Tailing the rabbit, I barely dashed a few paces. I hadn't realized such a place was so close by. Rather, I hadn't realized I had run this far. A conjecture tickled my mind that this world I fell into was a magical place, one with paths that pointed to one way but twisted to another. What an explanation. Much more far-fetched than me just not knowing where I was running. I took a moment to catch my breath. Glancing around, I began my walk about the garden. Flowers and greenery all around, but not a person in sight. This place was beautiful. I wanted to meet the person who made it. Not quite a gardening person myself, I still appreciated a pretty place and felt a swelling excitement to explore what sights could be seen. A reminder of reality then dampened my joyful curiosity. I wanted some answers. A way out and back home. As pleasant as dreams were, one had to be able to awaken from them before they turned into nightmares. Whether this was a dream or reality had still yet to be seen. Kirby Games left your trust barren. Step, step, I walked around. Hop, hop. I peered over the bushes. Soon enough, I discovered the heart of the garden where one might sit for tea. I spotted a white-haired girl in the garden. To amend my previous thoughts, wouldn't it be right to say that I rather also appreciated a pretty person? Frivolous thoughts flew from my mind as our eyes meet. I personally like to live every day like my face is gonna be eaten off, personally. Yeah, you live your best life, son. Her gaze seemed to beckon me over, so I went to speak with her. Are you enjoying the garden? The garden is beautiful. The gardener will be happy to hear that from you. However, if you have come here now, you should be searching for something. We should first introduce ourselves. I am the White Queen. Just like the rabbit, for reasons unclear to me, I already knew who she was. Here, that should be as good as a name. Your Majesty, my name is Alice. That is correct, Star. I had appointed you as White Queen when I got around to finally tagging everyone to Wonderland characters. Don't stand on ceremony, Alice. I am not someone you need to speak with particularly respectfully. Welcome to my garden in Wonderland. Wonderland. I tasted the word on my tongue. What does Wonderland taste like? I can't remember why or how I'm here. Not this garden, but Wonderland. I was falling, and I couldn't remember why I was falling. I was simply falling, until I fell no more. The White Queen and Red Queen is gone? That sounds pretty suspicious. I'm sure I've forgotten something very important. You needn't force yourself to remember. Some things are better left forgotten. Perhaps it was fated for you to come here. Perhaps something is missing that you must find. This world must appear like a place of dreams. You should find the Red Queen. The missing queen whom the White Rabbit mentioned was the Red Queen. I waited for the White Queen to continue. She hesitated to speak of the Red Queen, as if the elusive royal would appear like a ghost behind her as she spoke. That is a little suspicious. I tried to imagine what sort of person the Red Queen was. She will let you return to your own reality. When you meet her, you should be able to find all of the answers you are seeking for. As for where she is, this is for you to discover. Maybe the Red Queen was the friends we made along the way. Wonderland probably tastes like drugs, not gonna lie. I mean, given, like, the commodities of Wonderland, tea and tarts, I feel like would be a different kind of flavor. Do you dislike her? That's a difficult question, Alice. So she's like that. I'll let you judge the Red Queen. You might learn something new about her yourself. Or you might learn something new about yourself. Okay, I already had the suspicion that Alice is the Red Queen here. However the hell that works. Shall I head off to find her now? Why not stay for some tea? Of course, I'd love to, but it's not quite afternoon tea time yet. A later time, then. Certainly to have tea outside of tea time wouldn't do. I wouldn't keep you for too much longer, Alice. I won't keep you for too much longer. I'm sure you will be able to find that person soon enough. Until later. Later. I waved goodbye to the White Queen and departed from her garden. Glancing back, I saw her gaze linger upon me. Oh, this is a song. I stepped onto a twisting path in the forest. I didn't know which way to go to find the elusive Red Queen, turning left and right. To find a queen, I thought to seek a castle. However, the rabbit said that the queen was missing, so unless the rabbit had also forgotten something very important, the queen shouldn't have been at the castle. The Red Queen. She seemed like a troubling person. The way the White Queen's face froze, tongue stuttering along, at the topic of the Red Queen made me wonder, was the latter queen a tyrant or a fool? The tutor at home liked to talk about kingship of that sort. To me, either or neither were fine. After all, who were the peasantry to affect the mood of a high queen? I hummed and walked along with a skip in my step. Just as I reached a rhythm in my stride, I kicked a little something. An animal? That threw me off my beat. I slowed to applaud. My mood a note dampened. Maybe the White Queen is in a relationship with the Red Queen? And White Queen just got flustered? I mean, that's a possibility, maybe. Trying to hide a royal tryst? Soon I heard the chatter of a girl a few trees away. Seeing not much civilization here in the forest, I followed the voice of the girl. Although she was chatting, I heard her voice alone. Hello. I passed by a few bushes and soon enough found a tea party in the middle of nowhere. At a table set before a tree sat the girl. Anything is a possibility when you're in Wonderland. I mean, that's true. Hello there, Alice. What did you come here for? Oh, I just noticed the hare and the dormouse are hand puppets. Her chatter ceased, her mismatched eyes piercing through me in its place. There's no room here at the table, so don't take a seat. No room, no room. She moved the puppets on her hand, a sleepy mouse and a mad hare. Mad Hatter's eyes are hurting you extremely. Do you not like heterochromia? They are not two different shapes. Looking right to left, I could barely see the ends of the table set for tea. One person in such a large space, conversely. She almost seemed lonely. There's plenty of room, Hatter. To make my point, I took a seat in a large armchair across from the Hatter. Damn, that power move. The chair stunk of flowers as if to clear away the shadow of an unpleasant previous sitter. To clear away scent, huh? Like for murder? One of them is a donut, the other is a spear. Wait, her eyes? Oh, sphere. They both look the same to me. Oh wait, what is... I sank back into it comfortably. Then I kept sinking, before I jolted back up with a shallow gasp. Three's plenty a crowd. That's rude of you to say, Alice. Not very civil of you to sit down without being invited either. But whatever. Let's just treat you as our extra guest for tomorrow. Not today? Aren't they the same? Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Every day is never a day different. But since I'd rather not deal with it today, we just treat it as for tomorrow. Dormouse and March don't mind. You mentioned 3, but I only see 1. Notice how you can see a black dot in one but not the other? I see 2 black dots just fine. She has pupils. You mentioned 3, but I only see 1. She wiggled the puppets on her hands as if to explain everything. 1 was herself. 2 was the first puppet. 3 was the second puppet. I'm scared Alice might be blind. That's a side effect of being Alice. Don't worry, don't worry. It's just a side effect of being Alice. The pitch of her voice warped. Don't mind the comments. She is Dormouse and he is Smart Hare. She paused as if waiting for me to greet the animal puppets. I waited. She waited. The silence of the conversation bored me, so I relented to Mad Hatter's wordless request. I was their guest for tomorrow, so a polite guest I decided to be. Well, hello there. I was scared she was deaf as well. Hello there, Alice. Between the puppets, I much preferred the Dormouse. If a puppet could fall asleep, she looked as if she was about to do so. I felt some pity, as that meant that the March Hare would speak more. I guess to kind of give reads on who I've assigned as Wonderland characters, I see Sloth Adler as being Dormouse. I felt some pity, as that meant the March Hare would speak more. What were we talking about before? A riddle? Maybe it was this one. Why is a raven like a writing desk? Do you have an answer to that riddle? You're no fun, Alice. Relax and have some wine. Wine? Not tea? There is no wine. You are invited for tea tomorrow, Alice. It's the obligation of the host to offer a guest a drink at tea time. Maybe she was an alcoholic. Hatter, I can't in good faith call this time of day tea time, nor can I call alcohol tea. Is there such a cocktail as alcohol tea? Wait. What character do you see me as? I haven't given that much thought. Maybe you are the shark monster from Through the Looking Glass. Details. Add some butter. It'll be tea time eventually. So it's tea time now. We're having tea, so it might as well be tea time, don't you think? What did you come here for, anyways? Although I couldn't quite say that I had come to this tea party with a goal in mind, I figured I might as well tell her. I'm searching for the Red Queen. Her brow contorted as she took a sip of her tea. Puppets sat down for just a moment. Dumping the tea away and rinsing the cup, she poured herself another drink. Is it the wine? Long Island iced tea, but with actual tea. Oh, her. The Matter placed her lips to the rim of her teacup and stared at me. A minute passed, all 60 seconds consisting of staring, before she ducked down under the table as if to find an item, and popped back up again. Stay and chat for a moment. I'll help you with a little something regarding Her Majesty. The Hatter poured me a cup of tea and slid over a plate of sandwiches. The plate hurtled towards me, forcing me to horridly grab it lest sandwiches spilled over my lap. Luckily, the cup of tea arrived much more calmly. She just threw it at her? I took a taste, finding Earl Grey. Is it tomorrow already? At the very least, it wasn't time for afternoon tea. If I'd known I would have tea now, I would have stayed a little longer to have some with the White Queen as well. It was not that people couldn't have tea outside of afternoon tea, but it was the principle of things. If people drank tea any time of day, they would drink it all day. I sipped some more, enjoying the citrusy flavor of this black tea. Today is tomorrow for yesterday, don't you think? Unless she doesn't think. That would have been rude of you to ask. She's just normal. Orthogonal? I am certainly sitting up quite straight. But regarding the Red Queen, do you have some news about her? I'd say I have some business with her instead. Something to do with meat and flesh and all the other red things that a Red Queen might have to do with. Those are some red flags there, Hatter. Aren't you a hatter? Yes. Not a butcher? Unless your meat is made of a hat. While talking about all things unappetizing, I took a bite of a sandwich filled with an ambiguous color. That is concerning. A milky sweetness melted in my mouth. I tasted some sort of fruit inside. Maybe it was mango, or a kiwi, or strawberry. Satisfied with the pleasant sweetness, I took another sip of tea. This tea and these sandwiches are delicious. Thank you, Alice. You made them? Compliments to you, then. Wow, such flattery. Since you put me in a good mood, I guess we can go ahead with Her Majesty's matter. In fact, she's been sitting here with us the whole time. I sat up even straighter in confusion. Glancing around, I saw no queens in sight. Not a human nor animal, besides the two of us here. Does she mean me? The Hatter rolled the chair over and pulled the cloth off from over the chair's holdings. Ta-da! Oh no. Okay, horror's kicking in. Nausea ran up my spine. On the chair sat a chunk of meat dressed up in tattered human clothes. Still dripping red, the flesh seemed to ripple, undulating. Was it rotting? Or was it still alive? My head spun as I squinted at the thing. This meat... No. This thing resembled a human torso, with half a neck and chopped off limbs, dolled up with what could have been fancy clothes. This was surely human flesh. I sensed an odd familiarity to the torso, but also felt as if I was looking at it from an incorrect angle. This was the torso of a regal woman. This was raw, human flesh. There was actually a horror attraction at Disney that was about the Mad Hatter. I think I recall that. This is the Red Queen? An inappropriate question flitted across my mind. Could we consider it as sitting if it didn't have legs? I supposed yes. I thought you said you weren't a butcher, Hatter. Ooh, I'm liking this song. We definitely couldn't consider this a hat. Having just eaten, the strawberry taste in my mouth turned to a meaty texture like raw pork. Wow, it's getting intense! I could almost taste sweet, rotten fat. Oh no. I swallowed. Alice, no! I wondered if the Hatter wanted to make me sick. Yes, I'm a Hatter. I closed my eyes and rubbed the bridge of my nose. Too distracted by the surprise, the feeling of my fingers almost felt like wet ground meat, even though I was sure that my digits were still attached to my palm. The image lingered uncomfortably behind my eyelids, not with disgust, but with another inexplicable emotion, a negative one for sure. I looked at the torso again, and it seemed so still. I saw exposed bone and a shattered trachea. The cut must not have been wholly clean, made with the blade sharpened not quite enough yet, also dulled not quite enough. Yes, this was the Red Queen. I knew not why I knew, but a voice in the back of my head told me that this was the Red Queen, a part of the Red Queen. I'm afraid Her Majesty can't speak right now. The Hatter stirred her tea and popped a bite-sized sandwich into her mouth, munching happily. Don't look like that, Alice. The Hatter didn't dismember Her Majesty. Yes, Hatter is innocent. Since only the Hatter spoke up in defense of herself, I wasn't particularly inclined to believe her. But whether or not she did kill the Red Queen, the end result sat before me. What should I do now? I murmured my uncertainty at this dead end aloud. What do you mean? All you have to do is find all the other pieces. If you have anything you need Her Majesty for, all you need is to put her back together. Have you forgotten, Alice? That sounded mad. You realize who you're talking to. So mad, I wanted to laugh. This is Wonderland, after all. All I needed to do was find the pieces. That was right, Alice. That was all you needed to do. It would either be terribly simple or terribly hard. I hoped that no one had fed the Red Queen, to the pigs or minced her up for a patty. There might be someone who might, I fear. Regardless, all I really needed was a head and the torso if I wanted to talk to her, to ask her about the secrets of returning home. May I take the body with me? Alice, you are a civilized girl. Did you really want to lug around a piece of meat like you were some meat seller, selling to the cannibals? No, that wouldn't be fair, don't you think? Once you find most of her parts, let's just say the limbs, I'll give you a special present and help you out again. She has the head. She patted a box off to the side of the table. The box was just big enough for a cat, or a cake, or maybe something like a hat, like a head. What is a torso, or what is a head if not a hat for a torso? Of course, don't peek, or try to find out what the present is. It wouldn't be a surprise like that, and I'll be very, very upset if you cheat. With that smile on her face, I couldn't see her upset. Only muddled sincerity came through her voice. Now then, I've got to grab something off the stove before it burns. The Hatter got up from her seat and walked away. Here I was, alone with the Red Queen's flesh. It was missing all 4 limbs and a head, so to make her whole, I would need to find 5 parts. I hoped that my search would be easy. Oh, I have choices! Seeing as the Hatter was nowhere in sight, I contemplated a decision regarding the curious box on the table. I am not going to sneak a peek. I don't know what the Hatter is capable of. Or worse yet, I am quite aware of what the Hatter is capable of. So I'll just save here and just... And again, it is the Hatter. Could anything the Hatter be said trusted? I'll listen for now. I shook my head. Instead of antagonizing the Hatter needlessly, I decided to take another sip of tea. I would see what was inside the box eventually. The Hatter returned soon enough. In her hand was a hammer, glowing bright with heat. She chucked it to the side with a thump, and let the metal sizzle on the ground. Okay, concerning. What was the hammer for? Does a hammer need a reason to be? Anyways, go. Go ahead and try to find some of the Red Queen's body. An arm, a head, or maybe 2. Just bring them back here for me to attach to this. She pointed to the torso. It'll still be tea time when you come back. Let's just count you as an extra guest for the next tomorrow as well. To be exact with time, now was not tea time. I suppose there is not much else to do here. I looked at my empty cup of Earl Grey, and lifted myself up from the armchair. For what it was worth, I enjoyed this odd-hour tea. Shaking my legs just to make sure they hadn't fallen asleep, I started to leave. Until later. Auf Wiedersehen! She leaned back into her chair and made a lazy wave my way. Somehow, she looked lonely. I mean, wouldn't you be if your company was presently 2 puppets and a torso? I returned to another forest path, walking forward and forward. I will say that Alice in Wonderland has massive potential for horror. There really needs to be more of it. After moving for a while, I realized that I had no idea where I was going. In simpler words, I was lost. I walked around in a few circles before looking upward. Above, I saw a cat. A cat who resembled a girl, or a girl who resembled a cat, leisurely stood on a tall branch of a tree. Unlike the white rabbit, this cat, the Cheshire Cat, I couldn't help but wonder if she was actually neither a cat nor a girl, and was just pretending to be either. I met her cat eyes, nodding in silent greeting. Her grin stretched across her face as she stared right back. Sharp teeth filled her mouth, and claws adorned her hands. This was probably a cat. I just think of that meme, the one with the guy holding, like, the butterfly. Cheshire? The flame that was her tail flickered. Oh, I just noticed that. She has a fire tail. That's cool. And she hopped down to meet me closer. I don't suppose you'd tell me which way I should go? I posed a silly question that I expected no answer for. After all, I was asking a cat for directions. Depends on where you want to go. Thank you, Rip, for the head pats. To my surprise, I received a response. To find the Red Queen. Ah, the crazy one. Are you sure you'd prefer not to go with the nice one? The one I'm searching for is the Red Queen. Alright, the Mad Queen. Then again, we're all mad around here. This is except for Her Majesty the White Queen. She's too sad to be mad. If you're looking for the Red Queen, up, up, down, down, left, right might help. Cheshire knows the Konami code? No wonder they can teleport. Self-awareness, Alice. Self-awareness. The Cheshire Cat vanished into thin air. Soon enough, she reappeared. Just go to the White Queen instead. Maybe you'll find something on the way. She started to fade away again before popping back. I forgot to ask, how's the Hatter doing? She seems to be fine. It's still tea time over there. It's always tea time for that one. A third time, she disappeared, leaving a grin lingering in the air, before that too vanished. This was a grin without a cat, instead of a cat without a grin. The third time was the charm. The cat did not return. I can't say I've seen a cat quite like that before. Then again, Cheshire wasn't really a cat. Oh my god. Walking a few tree lanes more, I mulled over the odd advice she gave. Well, I'm going to do the Konami code. Go up, up, down, down, left, right. I tried to remember just what the Cheshire Cat had said, speaking the pattern of directions out loud to a beat. Up, up, down, down, left, right? I felt as if I'd missed a few steps, but that was still all the cat had given. I'd backtracked to the position where I met the cat and followed the recommended directions. Soon enough, I found myself at a crossroad. I saw no limbs nor heads in sight. Left was labeled right. Right was labeled left. With wrongly written signboards, I chose at random on where to go next. Every few meters, I found a new signboard, with its own quaintly marked arrow. Whether or not they led to the right place was another issue. I slowed my pace to read the signs and followed them along. Today is a rainy day. I didn't know which genius thought to put a forecast onto a wooden sign on the side of the road, but I followed the direction to go right regardless. The sky had not a drop of rain in sight. Warning, cliff ahead. As it happened, neither was there a cliff ahead. Watch out for dragons. I looked for the dragons, but the dragons did not arrive. Shameful. At some point, the text on the signs turned into insults. Fool. You don't even know where you are. Stop following these signs. How many of these will you read? I walked and walked and walked. It's kind of funny. The signs getting increasingly self-aware. At the end of the final sign in the chain, I reached a clearing in the forest where I spotted the white rabbit, talking with a limb. Hey, we found one! Your Majesty, your Majesty's left arm, please. I blinked. Then I blinked again. Rubbing my eyes, I saw the same image. Okay, that is indeed the left arm. The White Rabbit seemed to just about prostrate herself to a living, moving arm. Wait, it moves? The parts are still... Uh-huh? I mean, she did say the torso was undulating, right? So, was the torso still, like, breathing? The arm, despite being an arm, had taken the higher position. The ground here is dirty. You needn't crawl here. Shall I take you back to the palace? Or would you prefer to go to the garden or the courtroom? In fact, do you happen to know where Her Majesty is? The arm smacked the White Rabbit. Although I silently observed, the arm noticed me and began to crawl over, one handful of grass at a time. It moved like a snake, like a worm, like a piece of flesh and bone that shouldn't have been able to move. Its writhing struggle sent a shiver up my spine. I didn't know if I should pick it up or kick it away. I did neither, and it reached my feet. The arm proceeded to climb up my leg, up my cloak, cling like some sort of dirty parasite, making its slow way up until I pushed past my building disgust to hold it in my hand instead. I see why you chose this so far. Yuri graphic horror novel. Yep. The flesh felt cold in my palm. I sensed no heartbeat at the wrist. Alice, Her Majesty's arm seems to have taken a liking to you. If you find Her Majesty, please return the limb to her, and tell her that her rabbit did her best. I pray she hasn't met any trouble. A limb coming off isn't an everyday occurrence. No, it is not. Even by Wonderland standards. She made quite the understatement. Yes, of course. How did you know it was the Red Queen's arm? I would recognize Her Majesty's limbs anywhere. Do you admire her very much? Yes, of course. I respect Her Majesty very much. She united Wonderland into this kingdom, and kept peace with a watchful gaze on the criminal populace. She's a decisive ruler, and holds an agreeable worldview. This should be her divine right to rule Wonderland. I've heard a cat call her mad. A dangerous expression flashed through the White Rabbit's eyes for barely a second. The Cheshire Cat is a known problem element here. If Her Majesty is mad, then such a madness is in essence brilliance. Although I may not always be fated to be a favored courtier, to be an aid to her is my greatest honor. I cannot be White Rabbit without Her Majesty. Yes, that should be how I view Her Majesty. I gave the rabbit's impromptu speech a short round of applause, balancing the detached arm in the crook of my elbow. The rabbit became flustered. She must also like you very much. All the rulers had their dissidents and supporters. A certain man once said that a ruler was better feared than loved if she could not be both. Despite all that the White Rabbit said, I knew little more about the Red Queen. The Red Queen is the ruler of all this land. What's your job, White Rabbit? Yes, she is the highest ruler of Wonderland. I deal with a little bit of everything. Administrative matters, legal matters, and the personal matters of important people. Since we've met a few times, I could say that I'm important, couldn't I? That's right, Alice. To my tepid jest, I received a response that made me pause. The White Rabbit took out a watch and jumped in surprise upon looking at the time, quickly returning the watch to her pocket. Is it this time already? I'm afraid I must be off again, if that will be all. Thank you, Alice. Hurriedly bowing a few times, she dashed off back to work. Having obtained one limb, I searched around for another. No notification that reads, "Arm joined your party." Before I knew it, the day passed. I looked towards the sky where the sun had begun to set. Letting out a yawn, I realized I needed a place to sleep for the night. Ugh. I thought back to the parties who had helped me onto my adventure to gather the Red Queen's dismembered parts. Surely I could find one of them. Hatter. Would there have been more of a choice? I mean, I've only had like 2 choices thus far. I headed back to the Hatter's place. As before, I found her at a table of tea stuffs. She nursed a cup of tea and waved at me upon spotting me. "Just in time for tea, Alice." From the sky, tea time should have already passed. Perhaps this was more like supper time, so I only flashed her a smile without saying anything. I returned with a limb. "Congratulations!" I handed her the Red Queen's limb, which had begun to move upon entering the Hatter's hand. Holding it away from herself, the Hatter seemed to think of what to do with it next. She kicked a dog cage out from under the chair. Clicking the metal hatch open, she tossed the limb into it and quickly flicked the cage shut again. "Sit down. I'd be a poor host if I didn't let you sit." I plopped down into the armchair. This was my chair now. I glanced around and found I didn't see the 2 puppets that the Hatter wore on her hands earlier in the day. "Where are your friends?" I gestured with my hands. "They've gone home for a bit. March lives all the way over there, in the house with the ears. As for whose ears they are, I haven't a clue." "Are you hungry for rodent, Alice? Dear God, you didn't." "No." "If you say so, Alice." She poured me a cup of tea and slid the tea, cup and saucer, over to me, nearly spilling it over my lap. Soon after came another plate. On the plate was steak and vegetables. "I'm really concerned about taking meat from you." I should hope this isn't rodent, is it? It's something else." The Hatter didn't continue, but glanced over at the Red Queen's flesh. "No. Please, no." My eyes followed the path of her gaze, not spotting any steak-sized slabs of meat sliced off from the torso of the Queen. Of the Queen I sought, I let out a sigh. Yeah, thank goodness. I mean, it's still questionable meat, but thank goodness that it's probably not human meat. At least not Red Queen meat. Does that mean the meat would be rare? Taking a knife and fork, I cut the steak and moved a piece into my mouth. It tasted like beef. Compliments to the chef. Why, thank you. We ate together. For a Hatter, her table manners with the forks and knives were impeccable. But each time I thought to compliment them, she went and said something odd again. The Hatter was a mystery to unravel. "I don't have a place to stay for the night, so I wanted to ask if you would put up with me for the night." "I put up with you all the time. What difference does night make?" "Where I come from, people sleep at night." "Sleep? You can sleep underneath the table, or spread a blanket on the ground, or just sleep on that armchair you're sitting in now." "Isn't sleep just when you pretend to be dead like everyone else?" "Is that why you don't sleep?" The Hatter had terrible bags under her eyes. As I doubted she slept too much, she could only have been sleeping too little. "Look at the time. Is it really time to sleep? Napping at tea time will destroy your inner clock, don't you know? Morning, afternoon, evening. Since it's all tea time, it's better not to sleep." "I thought you didn't care about time." "Time doesn't care about me. That's a power move." "Are you perhaps afraid of sleeping?" "What do you think, Alice?" She poured herself a drink from a bottle into her teacup. BRB, food's calling. Enjoy your food, Rip. I turned to look at the bottle, which was in no way for tea. I couldn't read the jumbled words scrawled across its label, so I couldn't help but ask. Is that actually alcohol? Tea. Isn't it tea? She drank her tea, and I did mine. The conversation turned to silence. I shouldn't have pushed and upset my dear host. I wanted to pet her head and apologize, for she could drink or sleep as she wanted. As I reached out, the Hatter recoiled. She pushed her chair back from the table, taking the chance to move away. Then, she dipped underneath the tablecloth, rummaging through her stuff with a rustling noise. When she popped back out, she held the blanket, which she tossed my way. Didn't she want to pretend to be dead right now? Go, play dead. Catching it in my arms, I smelled the sweet scent from the soft blanket. Oh, what's this game? This is Who is the Red Queen? A Alice in Wonderland horror visual novel that may also be gay. I saw the LGBT tag featured in this as well. So, you could see it really was up my alley in every possible degree. Also, hi Draft. And right now, I'm currently discussing with the Hatter. If you want a plot synopsis so far, we have gotten to the horror elements. I found the Red Queen, who has gone missing. She's not in the best of sorts. In fact, she's kind of, beside herself at the moment. She's just a torso. And I've been instructed, or requested by the Hatter, to fetch her parts so that I might be able to ask her how I might be able to return home from Wonderland. I have found one of her arms. It seemed happy to see me. And now I've returned to Hatter because I am in need of a place to sleep. So there you go. There's your plot synopsis. The sky was dark. I started to feel sleepy, hugging the blanket a little tighter. I had experienced a long day after all, so perhaps it was time to go to bed. Good night, Hatter. I wondered if she was mad, if she would respond. But she did. Good night, Alice. I leaned back comfortably in the armchair and began to sink. Sinking. Contrary to my earliest expectations, I didn't keep sinking forever. The moment I looked up at the sky, I found I couldn't fall asleep anymore. I didn't recognize the stars, the constellations that adorn the dark heavens. Tracing their infinite sparkles, I wondered who they stood for. I wanted to understand what was hidden past those mismatched eyes of the Hatter. While counting the stars, I eventually fell asleep. Sounds like a regular vacation to Ohio. I wouldn't know, I've never been. I dreamed of falling. The next day and the day after, I continued my search for the Red Queen's parts. Remembering that the Cheshire Cat mentioned the White Queen, I decided to give the Queen a second visit. I thought that I could easily replicate the route to her garden, having only recently been there. However, the more I walked, the more apparent it became that I was lost. I passed that tree to the right a handful of times already. I was going in circles, getting nowhere closer to that beautiful garden and its equally pretty owner. I let out a sigh and chose a bush at random to walk through instead of following a path. I feel like in Wonderland, the best way to get to your destination is to actually get lost. My cloak saved me from being scratched by the leaves and branches of the bushes. I came out on the other side to a particularly tall tree and a large birdcage. Uh-oh. Oh. I spotted the White Queen inside the birdcage. Behind her was a limb, a leg. Hey, I found another one! Hello? We meet again, Alice. I hadn't expected that I would be trapped here again. I'm a little embarrassed that you're seeing me like this. I contemplated just asking for the leg and leaving. Damn, Alice. Alice can be a little savage. No, that would be a terribly foul thing to do, especially to a pretty person like her. Although in a way, it almost seemed like a good idea to leave a pretty bird locked up in a cage, all for oneself. Damn, Alice. After all, how would you catch her if you let her go free? Is that the Red Queen's right leg? So it would appear. To find the Red Queen, you may have to find her parts as well. Even so, she should be able to help you find your way back home. I'm sorry, Alice. Did you... So, I met the White Rabbit and then the White Queen first in my journey. The White Queen is who told me to go find the Red Queen. Did she know she was dismembered already? Don't apologize. The key to my prison is atop a towering tree. Would you help me open this cage, Alice? Yes, of course. Agreeing to the request, I walked over to the tall tree that the White Queen gestured toward. How tall it was, I couldn't say. If I angled my head and squinted, I could see the glimmer of a silver key at a high branch above. I circled the tree, the front and the back, and the sides left and right. They all looked equally hard to climb. Bird! As I pondered on how to scale the tree, a little bird approached. Cheep cheep. With all the talking animals and not quite animals in Wonderland, I had an inkling that this one might speak as well. Perhaps it spoke French, like a French bird. Bonjour? Bonjour! Unfortunately, I knew little French. My practice had grown rusty, so much that the tutors would be ashamed, but I tried to pull out at least one more phrase. Miss Machette? Chirp? I must have said the wrong words as the poor bird began to tremble. Wait, what does that mean? I recognize the words, but my French is also a little rusty. Oh, okay. She asked it, where's my cat? Okay, wouldn't that be shot? Parlez-vous anglais? Parlez-vous anglais? Yes, yes. Chirp, chirp. Cats? No cats, please. What are you doing? What are you doing? Chirp, chirp. I'm trying to get that key up there. What are you doing, little bird? Chirp. Just having lots of fun every day. Not doing anything in particular. Not doing anything in particular. Now that the Red Queen, I mean, Her Majesty, is missing, Wonderland is so much more wonderful. We can play and frolic as we want. Chirp, chirp. Auntie Bird got in trouble for breaking Her Majesty's laws, and now there's no more Auntie Bird. Chirp, chirp. I was so sad. So sad. Her Majesty was so scary. So scary. You won't tell on me, right? Chirp. Chirp, chirp. You look like a nice person, chirp. Much nicer than her. Much nicer than her. Oh, I see. I'll help you with the key, chirp. Puffing out its little chest, the bird flapped its wings and took off upward towards the sky. It flew and flew and flew, but soon enough became tired. Not reaching the key on the tree, the bird faltered and fluttered back down. It dipped its head in disappointment. Sorry. I couldn't do it. Chirp. Kill the bird? I can't even save here. Huh? Pet the bird. Ah, I should have saved. I mean, not that I would ever pick the option to just kill the bird, but I'm curious to what each option is. Goodness me. Oh, I can roll back. Oh, but that just leads me to that. Damn it. Oh, but then I can maybe roll back from here. I'll just have to remember that. Don't worry about it. I rubbed the little bird's head, causing it to peek up at me with its large round eyes, glittering with surprise. Oh, but now isn't the White Queen just gonna... Well, killing the bird wouldn't have solved my problem regardless. Unless there was a key inside the bird. After the failed first attempt at the key, I returned to the White Queen's side. She looked fitting in the cage, pretty, like a flower preserved forever in glass. Again, I thought that she was beautiful. You have some taste, Alice. Really, she was beautiful. That's true, Alice. Did she just speak out loud to herself as she admires the White Queen? Even so, I couldn't let her stay trapped, not to mention the Red Queen's leg. I mean, the bars look... Oh yeah, she could, in fact, probably grab the leg, but it would still lead the White Queen trapped. I wasn't able to find a way up. Do you have any ideas of what I should do, White Queen? Over there are some mushrooms. If you eat the ones to the left, you will grow. If you eat the ones to the right, you will shrink. I think they will be helpful. So we're taking this nice lady's leg. No, not her leg. The Red Queen's leg. I don't think we can see it in the picture, but there's currently a severed leg in there with her. Magic mushrooms. I was hesitant to eat mushrooms picked from unknown wilderness, as you should, but I felt that I could trust the White Queen. Why, I didn't know. Well, this is Wonderland, isn't it? I had forgotten something important. The feeling of forgetting tingled in the back of my mind whenever I saw the White Queen. I am going to save. How many save slots, whoops, do I have? Okay, a bunch. Good. Finding the mushrooms she pointed out, I faced a choice. Well, I would think growing is my best course of action, but then I would face the problem of how do I get back down. Shrinking, it's a tall tree. I just sincerely doubt I'll be able to reach it. Putting my trust in the White Queen. I ate a left mushroom and immediately began to grow. My line of sight rose higher and higher, as if I were a bean sprout. Once I stopped growing, I could reach the top of the towering tree if I reached out my arm. Fantastically, my clothes grew with me. I cautiously pinched the silver key and removed it from the tree, holding it lightly so as not to break it with my own giant hands. The key I now had, but the cage I could not open. I was much too big. The magic will wear off. In the meanwhile, would you accompany me to chat, Alice? That may be for the best. I would have to wait till I reverted back to my original size to open the door. Is the invitation for tea sometime still open? Yes, always. Then I shall ask about what sorts of foods and tea you like to drink, to see what I might expect. What's your favorite tea? White tea. Do you prefer black tea still? Oh, that was the White Queen. How did you know? We chatted for a while about tea, and at some point the conversation turned to flowers. Perhaps it was that she felt a bit ambivalently on floral teas. You're welcome to visit the garden any time. I couldn't find the way to the garden today. Perhaps getting lost had been for the better, as I found her in the end. Yes, that happens when I'm not there. But Wonderland should lead you my way if you think of me. At least for you, Alice. I have nowhere to be but the garden. She paused, looking at something in the distance that I could not see. Would you believe me if I told you I can see the future? I looked in her eyes and ascertained a calm surety. I didn't feel that she would lie, yet I couldn't quite believe her words either. I wondered what I had forgotten, what I was doubting. Rather than answer, I decided to play along. Can you change the future you see? Why do you ask? Otherwise, isn't it lonesome? I don't believe that the future is predestined, but the solitude of such a power would also be the fate of a queen in this world. Her words sounded contradictory. Even for the Red Queen. Especially for the Red Queen. The White Queen spoke of fate as if still trapped by something. As if still trapped by something more than just this birdcage. I couldn't understand. We talked a little longer. I felt a tingling up my arms and began to revert to my usual size. The world warped and finally popped back into its proper place. I twirled around to check that all was well. Identifying no issues, I picked up the key that I dropped to the ground. At some point, and inserted it into the lock of the White Queen's birdcage. With a smooth click, the cage unlocked. I opened the door. The White Queen stumbled out of the birdcage, her legs still wobbly from sitting in the cage for so long. She let me hold her steady as she rebalanced herself. Thank you. You're welcome. I have to return to the garden now, but my invitation is always open, Alice. I'll see you later if you're willing. She handed me the Red Queen's leg. Freed from the birdcage, the White Queen departed to return to her garden. After wandering around some more, I returned to the Hatter's place with the second limb in hand. The day came to an end, but the Hatter's clock remained at tea time. She was arguing with her own hand puppet about some sort of song, some rendition of Twinkle Twinkle. The hair on her hand was flung back and forth. I waited it out as she started laughing by herself halfway through. Apparently, she couldn't sing. Once her shoulders stopped shaking, the Hatter turned to me. Alice, you voyeur. I see you brought a second one. That one is one, and this one is two. Good work. The Hatter clapped her wrists half a dozen times. Alice, won't you join us for tea again today? Hatter made scones. It has butter. Thank you for the invitation, Dormouse. Upon my response to the Dormouse, she immediately brightened up. If it would make the Hatter happy, I didn't see why not just play along. Leg. Setting aside her puppet friends, she extended an open palm towards me. She proceeded to commit lèse majesté by tossing the limb over the Hatter's tea table over to her. What does that mean? And I'm certain I said it wrong. Oh, it's the insulting of a monarch. I took a seat in my armchair, seeing her clumsily catch it in her arms. At my seat there was already a cup of tea prepared. With her free hand, the Hatter opened up the dog cage and retrieved the other limb. Do you need help with that? I have everything under control. Without another pause, the Hatter stuck the limbs onto the Red Queen's torso. The flesh sounded with a squelch as the muscle, skin, and bone began to knit back into its place. Still a red line remained where the limbs connected. I took a bit of scone. As the Hatter said, it had butter. As the hair, said Alice. The Red Queen's incomplete body twitched, something squirming under the skin. I don't like that. I spread some clotted cream and jam onto the scone. The perfect blend of sweetness made me wonder where she got the jam. It was very red. Why so many, like, questionable things with the Hatter? Ow. The single arm grabbed at Hatter, smacking as it squirmed. The Hatter kicked the incomplete Red Queen, rendering the limbed hunk of meat paralyzed with shock. The Hatter forced its limbs off. A bit of blood and something else dripped onto the ground. Gripping the writhing limbs in her hands, the Hatter popped open the dog cage door with her feet and chucked them in. With a thud, into the cage the arm and leg went. Good scones. God, I also love how this is just normal to, like, everyone. Thank you. You mentioned you also had some business with the Red Queen, Hatter? But what is it? Something to do with red, something to do with flesh. I realized I didn't quite know. Put the quirky man down, Eris. The Hatter is a woman in this iteration. A personal matter, Alice. I'd prefer you don't pry. I was the one gathering the pieces, so of course I wanted to know. Then again, the Hatter could just as well put the corpse together herself. A better question was how she obtained the first chunk of meat, but I doubted she would answer. I was curious. After all, not every Hatter keeps the Red Queen's dismembered body at their table, much less treats it like you do. The White Rabbit is searching for the Red Queen right now, you see. And the Red Queen is right here. At least part of her was. No one likes the White Rabbit. Why didn't you tell her, Alice? I like the White Rabbit. Excuse you. Well, I didn't feel like it. The White Rabbit was boring. I had the feeling that telling her anything about the corpse sitting with us wouldn't help me much. You saved me from the dungeon. In that dark, dank place, a hat's not enough for the cold. Dungeons here aren't for keeping, but for killing. What? Dungeons here aren't for keeping, but for killing. Ah. Is she evil? I don't know, quite frankly. She's mad, is just all I can really say. I feel like trying to pin good or evil on the Hatter is a fruitless endeavor. I see. Let us commit Les images together. Surely the Red Queen will forgive us for piecing her together. I much preferred this Hatter. No, Alice. This is much closer to blasphemy. We have no choice but to beg the wrathful god for forgiveness, don't you know? I couldn't help but think of Osiris, the judge of the dead, cut to pieces by his own brother. Even a god king, rather the god queen, could be chopped up and rendered helpless. The tutors would be proud of me for remembering. Is that so? It'll be good working with you, Hatter. I offered a hand to shake. Seeing her hesitation, I expected her to reject my outstretched hand, but she instead grabbed my finger with an expression filled with uncertainty. I thought she would try to pull my finger off. However, she only gripped me weakly and shook it up and down before letting go once more. she was a bit gloomier for the time after. Night fell, and another day ended. Hatter seems to get uncomfortable with physical contact. What did I dream of? I must have forgotten. Only 2 more limbs and a head remained. I continued on my adventure to collect the Red Queen, so that I could finally meet her and find a way back home. Step, step, step. I walked around this upside-down world. In between my explorations of Wonderland, I chatted with the Hatter, and she made a certain inquiry. What do you want to go... Oh, what do you want to go back to at home? What indeed? Alice. Alice, what was waiting for you at home? I counted off my fingers. 2 sisters, 2 cats, a large empty home, books, and tutors. With my sisters, Lori and Eddie, I was not particularly close. The older, Lorena, and the younger, Edith... Wait, what? The older, Lorena, and the younger, Edith. Intelligent, Lorena. And precious, Edith. They seemed to live in their own world apart from Alice. I preferred the cats. A white cat and a black cat. The former was cute, a little beauty like the White Queen, and the latter a little devil. As for the books, our library seemed endless. We had so many books that I could drown. Maybe a pile had collapsed on me and I was dying, suffocating under the pages, so terribly that I fell into Wonderland. The tutors would be so mad. That the books were ruined. I winced at a phantom stinging at the back of my legs. The poor ruler. I could already see it go red. That was my world. A boring, normal, plain world where animals didn't talk and corpses didn't move, where I hadn't needed to think of much at all. I was Alice, and that place was Alice's place. I fiddled with my fingers, grasping for the correct expression to wear. A smile. A smile was always safe. I'll be off then. Step, step, step. I traversed about this place, which was not Alice's place, my place. I was walking around searching for clues, for where the next limbs, or even head, could be, when I heard the sound of conversation. I followed the noise and found the oddest pair, a rabbit and a cat. Ask the Hatter. Hatter? That Mad Hatter. She's more cuckoo than the bird. A real nuisance. The only silver lining is how now that rat and hare are out of the way, she's become more of a recluse. My ears are still ringing from that time we had to pull peasants off the street to sing for royal guests. The carts have stopped working, the kingdom falling into anarchy. We've got filth on the ground left and right. Up and down, too. Shut up, you damn cat. Oh. You fucking criminal pretending to be a cat. I have never seen such language in Alice in Wonderland. If we weren't so busy, I'd send the cars to chain you up and throw you back into the dungeons where you belong. That explains why Cheshire has the chains. Scary threats from a rabbit. Listen up. Your name is still on top for the list of execution, cat. Don't you think you can do whatever you want? Now I've got to... Alice! Good lord, I've never seen the white rabbit so, hostile. The white rabbit made a puking sound. The blood drained from her face when she met my eyes. Hello. Did I interrupt a conversation? No, not at all. Hello, Alice. I hope we weren't too loud. The cat and I were just making some small talk. How have you been? Well, clearly the White Rabbit's lying to me. Well enough. And you? Well enough as well. Well, what about me? Well, are you well? It depends. I'm Cat. I'm Cat. The cat's punchline met silence. Are you two friends? No. Yes. Our circles rarely overlap. We only happened to meet and talk today by coincidence. I'm hurt, Bunny. I thought we were friends. Cheshire Cat, please refrain from giving me unsolicited nicknames. Bunny? You two seem to get along. No, not really. They didn't seem to get along at all. I just liked how the White Rabbit thought she could lie straight to my face about what they were talking about before. Oh, so Alice is aware. Lie, lie, lie. That was what the Queen's courtiers ought to do. Hilarious. After a short three-way chat, the White Rabbit pulled me to the side for a private conversation. Ah, I have an invitation for you, Alice. The White Rabbit reached into her coat, retrieving an envelope from an inner pocket. She held it out to me. Messa with the Cheshire Cat? See, I don't know if this is cheating or not, but I have applied the Cheshire Cat to be lust. He even has art for it already. The Duchess has invited you to hear her endless party. Oh, the Duchess has invited you to her endless party. If you're interested in attending, it is and will always be held at her manor. Oh my, am I going to see the Duchess? I took the outstretched invitation. When is it? On and on and on indefinitely. Oh right, endless party. Yeah, that makes sense. Ever since Her Majesty has gone missing, the Duchess has been holed up in her manor, holding a grand ball day and night. If I didn't know better, I would think that she was celebrating. But she wouldn't be so foolish. I see. Thank you for the invitation. Tracing an oddly familiar wax seal upon the envelope, I fiddled with the invitation in my hand. I wondered where I had seen it before. I live to serve, Alice. What a relief. A burden has lifted off my shoulders now that this invitation is delivered. If it pleases you to attend, I hope you have an enjoyable time. The Duchess certainly knows how to throw parties. And the nobility of Wonderland how to party. I tucked the invitation away. Is there anything else? No, that is all. I won't bother you any further. Please excuse me, Alice, and have a nice day. Bowing her head a few times, she made her way away, and soon was out of sight. And off she goes. We were talking about something too. That White Rabbit. She only cares about the Mad Queen. I've got a little secret about the Red Queen. Just a bit of gossip. Do you want to hear? Certainly. I was in a bit of a stump trying to find the rest of the Red Queen. The first few pieces came along quite easily, as if delivered on a silver platter. But now I had to find some more clues. I waited for the cat to speak again, glancing at her flickering tail. She gestured for me to come closer. When I moved in, she flicked me sharply on the forehead, causing me to recoil in surprise and stumble back. I never said I would say. Try finding me later, Alice. Before I could respond to her provocation, she disappeared into thin air, leaving a grin floating before me. Oh shit! Was that there before? Just her face? leaving a grin floating before me for a short moment more. That is, if you can. With a flicker, the grin too vanished. What did the rabbit call her again, Alice? I ran my fingers through my bangs and sighed. Looking around, I was alone on my search again. Party. I will save here. Hopefully I'm able to double back. Okay, just making sure I have all the right parts. I took out the invitation that the White Rabbit had delivered to me. Running my fingers against the paper of the envelope and the imprint on the wax seal, some sort of animal, I tore the invitation open. Probably a pig, given the Duchess. Mesocat. Inside, I found a card and read it to myself. Alice. The Duchess requests the honor of your presence at her ball. Today, tomorrow, time eternal. The Duchess's estate, the manor. You are required to bring a companion. Flipping the card over, I noticed something of a crudely drawn map. I followed the lines on the map and somehow pinpointed where I was in relation to the manor. I held nothing to bring to a party, nor did I have a readily available guest. I pondered about whether I should go or not, seeing as that I could put it off indefinitely, but with the Red Queen's part still missing, perhaps someone there would know. A duchess should have been close to the Queen, for example. That at least the tutors had mentioned. As for the +1, my mind wandered to my few human acquaintances in Wonderland. The White Queen or Hatter. I will be right back, everyone. Just one moment. I'm back. Did I save here? Doesn't seem like it. Well, now I'm saving for my date to the Duchess's ball. I have been enjoying my time with the White Queen more, so I invited the White Queen, feeling that she would be. Hi, Leslie. I am right. I was right in picking the White Queen to be my date to the ball. Oh, as my stream's dying. That's a problem. Oh, goodness me. What's happening to the internet? Is the stream okay, everyone? I would like to not move forward if it's going to be a horrific show for everyone. Seems fine. Okay. My bits are saying otherwise, but I'll trust you, Draft. I invited the White Queen, feeling that she would be most fitting a guest to a noble's ball. White Queen, won't you accompany me to a ball? I will attend if you'd like me to. I'm not much for parties, but just this once with you would be alright. To whose ball and when? The Duchess's ball. The White Rabbit gave me an invitation to what she claimed to be an endless party. I dealt out the invitation and let the White Queen see. The Duchess's ball. Then we should be in no hurry. Alice, would you like to try on a dress? It seems fitting, for we are going to a ball, but you might not have one as you aren't from around these parts. At my nod, she made a whole wardrobe of dresses and accessories brought out. She had, and let me try them on. Lace and frills, silk and cotton, ribbons of various colors, and glittering gems. What a variety! Not a single thing had been touched or worn before, as if unwanted gifts. They were pretty, but not quite her. I might understand why children like to doll up pretty girls. I'm not particularly. We tried a number of different outfits. I changed into the next dress, a red dress. Feeling the comfortable fabric on my skin, I twirled around to feel the dress. Red suits you, Alice. It does, doesn't it? For a moment, her gaze went far, far away. Okay, my theory of Alice herself being the Red Queen is starting to pick up speed. But perhaps not today. Or perhaps not today. Must I wear a dress? I did not plan to be here for long enough to deal with the consequences, even if I particularly offended anyone. My plan was, and continued to be, to gather the Red Queen to leave. Therefore, if it would realign her gaze, then I preferred not to wear a dress. No, you need not worry about a dress. If you would prefer not to, the Duchess won't be bothered. I did say that I could see the future, did I not? Let me reassure you of that, Alice. She seemed too relieved that I chose not to wear this dress. The dress must have been tailored for someone special, as it didn't match the White Queen at all. I changed back to my own clothes, feeling my cloak snug around me. This suits me best. In exchange for that fun, will you allow me to do your makeup? I don't see why not. Fairy servants lugged over a makeup kit, bowing to me and her as they set it down. I looked at her face, the curve of her jawline, the shape of her lips. Seeing her up close, I felt a little flustered, because she was so pretty. With the tools given, I traced over her features. Alice, was she not already perfect? What was there to even cover up and make more beautiful? Truly, this is my white bird. Whose? Not wanting to ruin her feelings, I drew very little on, only dusting a light layer of blush on her cheeks. My hand hesitated. She shifted when the brush tickled her. Riddling with the makeup tools, I retreated. That should be all. I didn't poke you, did I? I felt nothing at all. Alice, you are in fact a very gentle person. A fairy servant brought her a mirror, called with a simple gesture from the White Queen. Looking upon my handiwork, I found that she looked no different from before, pretty and white. Still, she seemed pleased. As I decided not to dress up, the White Queen chose to do the same. Shall we go? I extended a hand toward her. Certainly. She called a carriage. A pretty crystal thing whose coachman sat invisibly. With, but a shadow. The horses, too, were nowhere to be seen like fairies. We entered the carriage and off it went. I looked outside the window, seeing familiar yet unfamiliar scenery, some places I had never passed by, even when coming to her garden. Whoa. Our ride stopped amongst a number of other carriages. I alighted, helping her down. And we walked up to the Duchess's manor. This seems more like a castle than a manor. A guard stopped us at the entrance. Halt! Please show your invitation card. I handed the guard the card. He looked it over, glancing at me and the White Queen, before stiffening in surprise. Your Majesty the White Queen. Making eyes towards another guard, the guard gestured and led us inward, and led us a few steps through the entranceway. That red dress, it might have been the Red Queen's. Well, the Red Queen's is currently wearing the dress she was wearing when dismembered. I'm holding on to my theory that somehow Alice is the Red Queen. The guard's fellow quickly darted inside, as if to report the appearance of a rare visitor. To enter, guests must provide an arm. The arm will be returned to you whenever you wish to leave the party. An arm? A limb? The guard nodded. Ah, shoot! I should have brought the Red Queen's arm. Yes, I'm afraid I cannot make an exception for anyone. Do I have the Red Queen's arm? I don't have it. Like, it's not with me. And if I offer my own arm, that's gonna be a problem. I feel like this wouldn't work because I don't have her arm. It's currently in the dog cage with Hatter. An arm. A limb. Well, time to save. Oh, I'm in chapter 2 now, apparently. I'm losing track of the timelines I'm creating. Offer it. Trust me. How can you be so sure, Draft? I mean, this is Wonderland, so I doubt me removing my arm is going to be that much of a consequence to me. It might even be happy to see me when I return. An arm. A limb. Certainly I had one. Certainly I had one I could obtain from the Mad Hatter. I glanced towards the White Queen, thinking of how I had never mentioned the Hatters, and my agreement. That agreement of blasphemy and lèse-majesté. So I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. For reasons unknown, I felt strongly that the White Queen knew more about the Red Queen's dismemberment than I did. Perhaps she did not lie about knowing the future. Alice, of course she did. Let's go ask the Hatter. The Hatter? The one who lives in the woods and cannot sing. That's a well-known thing, I see. Say that again, in the dog cage with Hatter? Yeah. Hatter put the Red Queen's arm in a dog cage. Because it was feisty, to say the least. Are there many Hatters in Wonderland? Perhaps there were, just not many satisfactory enough. Without asking any further, she followed my lead to go find the Hatter. See, this would have been faster if I just offered my own limb. But then again, the party's going on forever, so it's not like time was of the essence here. Arriving at the Hatter's place, I found the Hatter having her usual tea time, chatting with the puppets on her hands. She spotted us, sitting up straighter in her seat, seeming surprised at seeing the White Queen. A darkness stirred in her mismatched eyes as she saw my guest. Your Majesty the White Queen. No room. 3, 4, 5? 5's enough for all the people in this world. Don't be so rude to Her Majesty the White Queen. You wouldn't want your heads to go flying again. I didn't bother to take a seat this visit, knowing that if I were to lounge on my armchair, I would stay there with the Hatter for much too long. We aren't here for tea, Hatter. A real shame. But rather an arm, preferably detached from anything else. Yes? The Hatter looked down at her own limbs. One of that person's would suffice. We only need to borrow one for a bit. An arm would be appreciated, Hatter. Is that so? Your Majesty, you'd like to borrow a limb? I'm surprised. After all, you were the one who did that. Did you lose it? What I mean to ask is, did you lose your trash? I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh shit. I forgot that it was supposed to be a secret. I suppose I shouldn't show my gratitude and instead reflect on my rudeness. My sincerest apologies. Sorry, ma'am. Didn't mean to ruin the choppity chop. Didn't mean to mention the choppity chop. Our heads haven't been the same since they fell off in the first time. A bit of an open secret, don't you think? I ask you not to speak of that, Hatter. I understand. Our lips are sealed. Zip tighter than tight. Okay. So I've gathered that, sadly, the Dormouse and March Hare were probably beheaded. If Hatter's to be trusted, and kind of more so since the White Queen seems to be acknowledging it, did the White Queen kill the Red Queen? I realize that was one of your, like, predominant theories, chat, but it's starting to seem more and more likely, and Alice isn't questioning it. I mean, I guess for Alice, she doesn't really, it doesn't matter to her who did it, she just wants the limbs. The actual people were killed and Hatter made the puppets to cope. Yep. Seems like it. Regarding that arm, Hatter. Of course, of course. Alice, you were the one who found it. The Hatter hopped over to the dog cage and kicked it open, pulling an arm out like a bear fishing from a stream. She held it far from her as it began to flail and chucked it my way over the table. The limb flew an uneven arc through the air, forcing me to dash toward the piece of meat. I just barely caught it in my arms, nearly stumbling into the White Queen, who stood near me. Her arm. The White Queen's eyes bored into the severed arm with distorted intensity. Bring it back later, Alice. I will. Saying goodbye to the Hatter, we returned to the Duchess's manor. The guard greeted us, and we handed over the arm we retrieved. His gaze lingered on the White Queen, after ascertaining the validity of the arm as an entrance fee. Even he must have noticed that she seemed reluctant to part with the limb. The guard handed our entrance fee off to a servant, who put it in a sealed box, and took it away for safekeeping nonetheless. We better get that back. Please enter, esteemed guests. Ooh. It's like the ballroom at the manor. Thank you, Rip, for the head pats. We arrived at the Duchess's ballroom. Although the hostess was nowhere to be found, servants milled around the floor with refreshments for the guests. A quartet performed in front, food set at the tables to the sides of the room. All around were faceless people, dressed up like clowns. Hi, Lazuli. Oh, that's concerning. The moment the White Queen stepped foot into the room, all heads turned towards her. A horde approached us, circling around the White Queen so that she could not easily escape, yet they kept their distance as if gazing upon a rare zoo animal. Greetings, Your Majesty, the White Queen. Have you been well? We have nothing but gratitude for all you have done for this kingdom in the face of tyranny. Her Majesty was... Oh, no. Was this still a difficult topic to speak of?
Nice car.
Thank you, Lazuli. You'll jinx it. If you speak for the devil will appear. I don't think that's possible. The devil's not, getting up these days. At least the devil in question. Your Majesty, won't you come visit...
Right.
Won't you come visit the Marquisdom? Your white hair is as beautiful as snow today. They're hogging my date! No wonder you are so adored. Your beauty was such that even she was so enamored with your presence. She was... we shouldn't speak of her. I wish I could touch your skin. You did us a good deed. So even the Red Queen was enamored by the White Queen. Interesting. Write that down, write that down! A paragon of virtue. The heavens must sing your praises. You are truly the queen with the divine right to watch over Wonderland. It must weigh heavily on you to have had take such drastic measures. But what are your plans now on the empty throne? The rabbit, an animal, still thinks that she can be found. This is what we get for letting vermin rise up the ranks. But no one else wanted to be in that position. You say that because you're incompetent. Truly this kingdom might fall into disarray, your majesty. Do you have any intentions for who should be delegated to rebuild Wonderland? You worked so hard, so I want to take a good rest and let others do the dirty work. My husband is always... My word, the nobility is corrupt! Your husband isn't exactly here right now. Wasn't he banned for making a ruckus? Your Majesty, please don't take offense, but I know a wonderful place, brilliant volcanic springs, to recuperate from being locked away for so long. The White Queen was locked away? And there's hot springs in Wonderland? If you would consider my brother... White Queen. My hand brushing against hers, I was sick of hearing all the dribble leaking from the faceless crowd's mouth like half-chewed-up slop. She nodded. We must go see the Duchess now to speak about matters of the Red Queen. Upon mention of the Red Queen from the White Queen's mouth, the pigs surrounding the White Queen collectively gasped and took a few steps back. Ah, the Duchess is normally associated with pigs. Was that always meant to be a euphemism for the nobility? Huh. Could it be? She nodded ambiguously, causing them to scatter with one excuse or another. Soon a servant approached, telling us that the Duchess was ready to meet us in the parlor, and that we could head over as soon as we wanted. I spoke too soon. Was that simply a bluff to make them back away? Yes. It may be just as well that we meet with the Duchess, because you are searching for the Red Queen, to find your way back home. Shall we, Alice? Huh. I can't get over how much this resembles the manor. I mean, it really does make sense. I followed the White Queen through the manor hallways, glancing left and right and at familiar and unfamiliar. Alice, the Duchess, must have redecorated. That's another thing. Alice normally does talk to herself, to the point that her own inner Alice is a different Alice entirely, it seems. But I'm still cooking something in my head that maybe the Alice in her head isn't actually Alice. Even freakier, what if her head is the Red Queen's head? Therefore, the voice in her head is the Red Queen's, and not hers. I'm confusing myself. What unspoken good deed had you done that the swine, I mean, those nobility, would not leave you alone, White Queen? Absolutely nothing. She stopped. I stopped. The Duchess welcomes you. The guard before her room bowed and opened the door. letting us into the Duchess's parlor. Inside sat a featureless woman who hid her face. Instinct told me that she was ugly, yet I could not see anything. Not disfigurement nor beauty. I perceived her. She was the Duchess. Welcome, Your Majesty, the White Queen. And what name did you go by now? Yes, Alice. The Duchess looked at the White Queen before glancing toward me, returning a sense of pity towards us. Your heart is still entangled. You didn't come to me for that advice, my beloved queen. I believe you wanted to speak to me about our dearest majesty, the missing Red Queen. Yes, it's Alice's matter. We told the Duchess about my circumstances. I fell into this world unknown, and was seeking out the Red Queen in order to find a way home. We left out the part where the Red Queen was dismembered, but the Duchess already knew. You are searching for the Red Queen, but the Red Queen has been dismembered. To even request aid from her, you must assemble all her pieces. As it so happens, I have her left leg in my possession. In that case, would you give it to us? I will be giving it to a pair of guests at today's ball. It would be unfair for me to hand it off to you when another pair would have had to show their prowess to earn the limb. I will offer something in exchange. You've nothing to offer, nor have a true desire to meet our dearest majesty again in this form or another. Of course, these are only my own thoughts. Forgive me for assuming, but I cannot give you a limb like this. Rather than letting her offer something in exchange, would it not be better for me to do so as the person searching? What could convince you to give up the limb, Duchess? I will hold a little game today, and if you win, then the limb will be yours. A game. Yes, a game. Our dearest Majesty loved her games, even if they were much too often cruel. Cruel games with no winner, not even herself. I'm sure that Her Majesty the White Queen remembers. Will you not do me a favor, Duchess? I can only imagine how this all would have gone if I invited Hatter instead. Something tells me things would be a lot more hectic. We might be walking out with a few extra legs. No, not even for you. Her Majesty's most beloved. Okay. They're really laying on the plot now. But is it a tragic tale then? If the Red and White Queen were a thing, and the White Queen is perceivably responsible for the Red Queen's dismemberment? Is it like a for the betterment of Wonderland kind of thing? I'm getting invested. The White Queen looked away. Finding little more we could say to convince the Duchess, we left the Duchess's parlor, soon after the door by her. We returned to the ballroom to wait. The quartet continued playing. The previous crowd saw the troubled look on the White Queen's face, and decided not to approach, only watching her from afar. Dancing pairs filled the floor. The White Queen eyed me as if she wanted to request something. When I turned to question her, she pretended to look at the refreshments. Do you like dancing? Just a normal amount. You needn't feel restricted by me. I'll be fine by myself if you would prefer to have a dance or a few now that you're here. Alice? What is it? May I invite you to a dance? I took her hand and we went toward the dance floor. The next song started. This is cute, all things considered. Tap, tap, step, step. A practiced sequence of footwork moving across the room at the rhythm of the music. We danced while gazing into each other's eyes. Without even saying what we should dance, we just danced. I took Alice's part, she took She took the White Queen's part. There was nothing more. Feeling ambitious, I twirled her around, chuckling as she grew a little flustered when I caught her. I saw a strange expression, as if she had expected something different, but the smile that floated to her eyes reassured me that I hadn't done wrong. The White Queen was always looking somewhere else, perhaps to the future, perhaps to the past, perhaps to a person who wasn't here, even though we were here right now. This was our dance alone. Thank you. No, I enjoyed that. Can we dance together again one day? Perhaps one day we should. The music stopped along with the dancing. It was at this time that the Duchess made her appearance. Behind her was a servant carrying the severed leg under a red cloth. Tonight we shall have a special gift to be given to a single guest. A hushed whispering ran through the ballroom as all the guests guessed at what the White Queen and I had already learned. We are holding a chess tournament. Oh no. The usual game that ends when the king has fallen. Even here, where the king has long gone. Of course, the winner will receive the prize. The servant removed the cloth. All around, the guests let out a collective gasp. What, you may ask? Why, it could only be our dearest Majesty's leg. May the best strategist win. The Duchess clapped. The servants began to move out, setting up tables and chess sets in a matter of minutes. With the matchup list created, the tournament started. Here was an exercise left to the reader. If given a game and a player terribly good at a game, what would happen? Naturally, the player would win, and win again. To my surprise, for this game that was chess, the player who was terribly good was the White Queen, even with the handicap of Alice as a teammate. We made our ways to the finals, where we met with the last opponent, not at the table, but in a cleared-out space in the ballroom, with a large chessboard overlaid. The last opponent was the Duchess. Around her, lined up, stood 1 1/3 dozen soldiers, dressed up in black chess pieces. Oh no, we're playing real chess. Uh-oh. Human chess, Duchess? Our dearest Majesty enjoyed watching games like this. One of you two will have to take the role of a piece, and otherwise I will provide the other pieces for you to play with. Please take your time to decide. Uh-oh. Those blades at the Duchess's black pieces wielded looked heavy and sharp, dangerous. Alice, let me. You could get hurt, White Queen. I would say the same to you. At the very least, the Duchess would hesitate to hurt me, for I am the White Queen. However, you are Alice. I know. In that case, we stood at a standstill for so long that the Duchess had a set of white pieces shuffle in and take their spots on the board. One of us had to be the human chess piece. But, I'm not gonna risk her life. Plus, she's the better player than me. Unless the one on the board had to be the one doing the playing. In which case it might be better. Because if it's me playing, I might be just marching to my own death. But I still decide, me. Let me. I was at best mediocre at chess, even if the tutors had smacked basic strategy into me. So I preferred to trust the White Queen instead to command the board. Okay, so I was right. I think this is a good play. She knows how to play. I don't. I'm gonna try to save here for the sake that maybe I can roll back to earlier choices. She acquiesced, making me take on a pawn's position. Wait! I thought I was gonna be like the king role. I'm a pawn? As I obtained a sword for my role, I speculated about what strategy she would formulate. The White Queen started with the first move, directing the pieces here and there, moving me carefully as well. The White Queen captured the Duchess's black pieces with ease. Coming here with this girl who so resembles her, Your Majesty the White Queen, I wonder what you intend to do. In a way, I understand. She was so terribly, terribly bright. So bright that she could burn away. A brilliant and terrifying person that I could not help but watch. However, regardless of who this girl is, are you still unable to look away from that person? The White Queen stumbled, sacrificing a bishop in a position she had not meant to order him toward. No. Is that so? Not very good sportsmanship to say such things during a match, Duchess. Fair. Then let us say nothing unrelated to the match. Of course, you are a piece on the board, so you too must stay silent, as chess pieces do not talk to their players. Thank you, Alice. I nodded in acknowledgement, keeping my mouth shut as per the Duchess's rules. She moved me all the way to the other side. As a pawn, one of the most disposable pieces on the board, I was oddly enough kept perfectly safe. I promote Alice to queen. The promotion from pawn to queen consisted of handing me a flimsy white crown and a new sword. Ooh. Within a handful of moves, the White Queen desolated the Duchess's black chess army, rendering the Duchess's side nearly empty. The White Queen maneuvered me to the Duchess's black king. With one last move, we would win the game and obtain the Red Queen's leg. I just realized, so I'm assuming I had to, you know, do a little slashing to take pieces. Checkmate, Duchess. Yep. I cut down the Black King, wondering why the sensation of my blade hitting flesh felt familiar. The Duchess clapped her hands. Congratulations, this is my loss. Even facing my challenge fair and square, you have ultimately obtained the Red Queen's limb. I wish you best of luck gathering her parts, for better or for worse. I am in no position to stop you, not when even your Majesty the White Queen approves. If our dearest Majesty is to return, then we must accept that and end the party. Would you like to take your prize now? Yes. The Duchess gestured over to the servant with the prize and handed the leg to me. I hope you enjoy the rest of the ball. She does. She does have one of her hands is bandaged. And, Your Majesty the White Queen, do come visit whenever you would like to talk with me again. The Duchess departed with her servant following after her. Just as quickly as she left, the chess setups were cleared away. I looked toward the White Queen, touching her hand to gain her attention. Her hand felt cold. Do you want to stay longer? The White Queen shook her head. I've had enough excitement for the day. Thank you for inviting me, Alice. Although that last game of chess was nerve-wracking, I enjoyed spending today with you. No, thank you for coming with me. I felt the same. We found a servant to leave and were redirected outward. He retrieved the sealed box with our entrance fee and handed it over. I will leave you with the limb. Do you want to meet the Red Queen again? That's a difficult question, Alice. Ah, I see. I already understood that she had a complicated relationship with the Red Queen, but I wanted her to look at me instead. Alice was right in front of her. No, at the very least, I wanted her to smile without looking at something so far away. Because surely the person she was looking toward was the Red Queen, who had already been dismembered. We parted ways. Ooh. Taking a wrong turn, I exited to a garden. And at the far end of the garden was the exit. I turned back to ask the Red Queen to find that she had already gone. This must have been the Duchess's garden, seeing as I had just come from her manor. I strolled through the garden, appreciating the flowers and greenery, yet couldn't help but compare it to the White Queen's garden. Perhaps I would go visit the White Queen again. I would say nothing blatantly scary, just kind of disturbing and unnerving. It's more of a thriller than like straight up horror, I say as I'm carrying two limbs. Perhaps I would go visit the White Queen again. Yeah, I wouldn't exactly call it horror. It's disturbing, is what I could really call it. Without much further ado, I made my way through the garden exit. Not even taking 5 steps out, I stumbled. Sudden vertigo struck me. I must have had a long day, I reasoned as I held my hand to my forehead while trying to steady myself. My brain spun like a sloshed up bit of mud. I must have forgotten something very important. I leaned back against a tree to take a break. Looking upward, eyelids flickering, I wondered if the sky had always looked so far away. My furry hand, propped up against the bark, slid downward, unconsciously. I passed out. I closed my eyes for a moment. Darkness. I must say, the skies of Wonderland are just gorgeous. I slowly opened my bleary eyes to the sky. A terrible headache battered my skull. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. So disoriented I was, I had no idea where I was. I patted around me and noticed I still had the limb I just retrieved with me. My head hurt. Hearing footsteps, I pushed myself up to a seating position and saw her. Am I choosing? I'm picking who I saw? The White Queen. Looking around, I found that I was at the White Queen's garden. A raspy sound flowed out my throat like gravel. Swallowing, I let out a grumble from the discomfort. I rolled to my side in discomfort before turning about again, feeling both the heat burning the back of my neck and a chill running through my whole body. Alice, you still caught colds like this? You were already so big. Drink some water, Alice. The White Queen appeared by my side with a cup of warm water. Lifting the cup to my mouth, she slowly tilted it for me to drink. Clumsy as she was, much of the water spilled past my lips. Then, she retrieved a bowl of an unidentifiable dark liquid that smelled not quite like wine, yet not quite like anything else either. You are the White Queen Star. I will admit, though, that role was a bit of a placeholder for you. I had some medicine prepared for you. I should help you get better. I opened my mouth like a baby bird as she moved a spoonful of medicine toward me. Or just a placeholder. No, that's not what it is. Your role is a placeholder. As it entered my mouth, I recoiled in disgust, sputtering at the taste. The metal of the spoon knocked against my throat, throwing me into a coughing fit and spilling the spoonful. Alice, are you alright? Now that I think about it, Star, you would probably be Hatter. But I wanted to give you someone worthy of your stature, so I thought one of the queens would suffice. The White Queen quickly moved the spoon away. Taking a wet towel from a fairy light, she wiped away the spilled medicine. This is just medicine. It's... bitter. Must I drink it all? The medicine is good for you, Alice. In this world, there are many painful, bitter things that are good for you, so it would be best if you take it. I could not disagree, but the way her voice dipped made my heart ache. I wanted to disagree. Disregarding the taste that made me want to hurl, I took the bowl from her and gulped the medicine down. I resisted gagging as I swallowed. Bitter. This medicine was much too bitter. My eyes watered from disgust. Good, Alice. She petted my head. Then she popped a piece of candy into my mouth. A sweet, milky flavor melted in my mouth, masking the bitter, but not completely ridding my tongue of its misfortune. Sweet. The candy was sweet. I liked sweet. After I finished the candy, the White Queen gave me some more warm water and had me continue lying down to rest. White Queen, you're a little clumsy, but I appreciate you taking care of me. I haven't had anyone... She held my hand and squeezed reassuringly that she was there. Thank you. I let out a yawn, feeling a haze float into my mind. Perhaps the medicine had begun to take effect. No, Alice, you're different from her. She never, ever showed me this side. Not even at the very end. Not even then. She murmured to herself, thinking that I would not hear. Alice, perhaps she was looking at you now. Though she was always looking far away. Perhaps at this moment, she was looking at you, even just a little. My eyelids grew so heavy that I couldn't keep my eyes open any longer. Good night, Alice. She laid a kiss on my forehead. Too tired to say anything in response, I fell into the realm of dreams. Well, this is interesting and really sweet. I wasn't expecting this game to actually be, have, romance parts in it. I kind of just assumed it was going to be, a straightforward, plot. But there's actually routes in this. I like it. Allow me to save... Still in Chapter 2. Okay. Once I get to Chapter 3, I have no idea how many chapters there are. Is when I'll call it. My throat is getting a little sore. After a few days of rest under the White Queen's care, I recovered to full health. I never wanted to taste medicine again. When you assemble the Red Queen, will you come visit again? Yes, I will. Her words reminded me that once I left Wonderland, no longer could I come find her at this garden. We would be separated by worlds I'd never meet again. Surely. Bidding goodbye to the White Queen, I stopped by the Hatter's place to drop off a limb. The Red Queen was nearly assembled, missing only her head and a fourth limb. I believe her other leg, right? With this I have... No, her other arm. With this I have both legs. Which means the torso can walk. The Red Queen was nearly assembled, missing only her head and a fourth limb. Onward I continued with my search so that she could send me home. Still chapter 2, okay. I thought back to the Cheshire Cat's taunting provocations. Thinking of her taunting flick, I had no idea where she could be, for she always appeared and disappeared as she pleased. I had a quick chat with Hatter to find out. Are you acquainted with the Cheshire Cat? Cheshire? She's scary. Always up in the trees. She's usually around the northern end of the forest. The cat always says she has business, so she can't stay for tea. Even though I never invited her. Yes, we're acquaintances, but definitely not friends. If you're looking for that cat, don't bring her back here. We're low on seats as is. Next thing you know, you'll have to be chalked up to fit in a teapot. Ta-ta! The trio of one gave me a jaunty wave. Taking the Hatter's words, I started off to explore the forest's north. I walked down many twists and turns, stumbling across uneven ground. The path was rougher here, and the foliage thicker. I found not another living being in sight. No cats, nor others. All the while, I reached a place with 2 signs pointing in opposite directions. One read cliff, and the other not a cliff. I let out a chuckle that they were straightforward enough signs, but I couldn't see where they led past the bushes blocking beyond their arrows. Ding-ling. The ring of a small bell entered my ears, followed by the clatter of metal shackles. Cheshire Cat? I received no response. Accompanying me here was only the breeze that would sometimes hit the leaves off the trees around me. I heard a soft rustling noise, but when I looked towards the sound, I saw nothing. I tilted my head to look further upward, and... Ow! The world shifted. The air was pushed out of my lungs. A black and orange blur crashed down on me with great momentum from the sky, slamming me to the ground. If my head had hit a different way, my skull would have been a cracked egg on the ground. I moved just in time to harshly bang my shoulder instead. I thought I'd get it done in one shot. The blur, the Cheshire Cat, filled my spinning field of view. This is like a fight. This is a fight song. She wrapped both hands around my neck, digging in with her sharp nails. Her left arm flickered in and out of existence, as if it wasn't really there, creating an unbalanced pressure about my throat. Her grip tightened, drawing blood. I couldn't breathe. She squeezed even tighter. I tried to pry her fingers off with my own. My twitching hands clawed at her, constricting grip, and even scratched my own neck. More than the pain of the flesh wounds, I was going lightheaded from the lack of air. I just barely forced her off my neck. I wheezed, coughing to catch my breath. She grabbed my collar, gripping on the left flickering in and out, and slammed me back to the ground after lifting me up a little. What? I couldn't even ask why she was doing this, as vertigo overwhelmed me. Kicking and flailing randomly, I managed to push her off for a moment. I had to reorient myself, get to my feet, just roll away from her somehow. Okay! Cliff or not a cliff? Well, thinking back to the previous signs, there was a sign that said cliff. As I continued down it, there wasn't a cliff. So... cliff. I tumbled through the bushes in the direction labeled as cliff. The signs around here had nonsense written on them many times more than not. As I expected, my chosen direction had no cliffs in sight. I was right! If I went the other way, I definitely would have fallen to my death! I shakily got to my feet and watched the cat do so as well. She immediately lunged at me again. This time, I was more prepared. I kneed her in the stomach as she approached, grabbing her right shoulder and twisting while hooking my foot on hers. Damn, Alice! Forcing her arm down, I heard a slight cracking noise. I made her fall to the ground with a thump. Just in case, I kicked her away a bit. Her body was light, like a cat. I'm waiting for an explanation. She started to fade away, but I stepped on her before she could get away. After a quick struggle, she relented and got up to her feet, without any further fading. The cat snarled, dusting off her body. I hadn't realized who you were before. My cloak may have a hood, but you've seen my face many times already, Cheshire. Wonderland's twisted up in time. That sort of logic doesn't work here. It's mad. All mad. You might be Alice, but who is Alice? Now that's the question we have to ask. To start with, you don't know anything. Do you even know who you are, Alice? I am Alice. That is all. That was my sole truth. But who in the world is Alice? An outsider? A temporary visitor? I've just about figured out the most important part. If you figured it out, I don't suppose you'd tell me. You are... She pressed her hand against her head. Somehow you're much too similar to the Mad Queen. Oh, about that Mad Queen. You've been looking for her, but let me tell you this. She's been dead for a while now. I figured! Although I think you should already know. I can't put into words for some reason. Maybe it's just the way you look at the world, but you're definitely the same type of person. In which way? Are you just trusting some gut feeling? Some delusion that I might be the same as someone who I never met? Or as you say, someone who is long dead? This world can't afford another Red Queen. Not even the chance of one. She vanished, taking the chance in our conversation. Criminals needed to be locked up. I looked all around, hearing the faintest sound of her shackles, telling me that she was nearby, but I could not see her actual presence. So why don't you do me a favor, Alice? Just go ahead and die. Her voice danced through the air formlessly. You have no qualification to enact your form of justice, cat. That really is just like her to say. She appeared behind me and attacked again. We fell to the ground to tussle once more. She clawed me a few times, but I gradually gained the advantage. The cat favored her right arm. Rather, her left arm acted transient, coming in and out of existence, forcing her to avoid relying on it. Her handicap forced her to falter more than my own numb shoulder did me. She fought like an animal. To be fair, she was an animal. Biting, clawing, and all the likes, she came at me with intent to kill. We continued till we were both bloodied and bruised. Jeez! I punched her straight in the face, causing her to bite her tongue and choke up a mouthful of red. Her head bounced on the ground, throwing her next moves into disarray. I hit the cat again, and again. Doing this with my bare hands wasn't exhilarating as much as it was just a matter of fact. I had decided that I preferred this nuisance out of my hair. I noticed that her right arm was stitched on. The arm felt familiar, as if it didn't belong to the Cheshire Cat. Alice, that cat was also a thief. I wanted that arm. Alrighty. Wow! We are in the midst of a struggle, and Cheshire does want to kill me. If I ask for it, that might give her the chance to make a move on me, whereas if I just tore it off... Decisions. I already saved, right? I don't know. I don't know what's the safest option. I'll ask for it. That arm doesn't belong to you. Give it back, Cheshire Cat. Why should I? I asked politely because I would prefer to let you part with it on your own terms. If I must, I will take more drastic measures. The cat squirmed under me, but I forced her down, sitting atop her body. I have no intention of staying in Wonderland. My current adventures through this world are entirely to find a way back to my own world. As such, Cheshire, if you would hand over the arm, then we should have no further interactions. I will endeavor not to meet with you again unless it has to do with my way home. I can't fight anymore. As tension left her muscles, signaling to me that she had given up, she let out a scornful bark like a laugh as she acquiesced. Fine, I'll give you the arm, so get off. She made a weak motion as if to push me off. No, give me the arm first. Fine. Bruised black and blue, bloody from our brawl, the Cheshire Cat twitched her stolen arm, looking at it hesitantly, as if unwilling to lose it. She shook her head, a faint cracking noise from her neck made her let out a whine of pain. She nudged her cape closer to her. Nudged her cape closer to her face and bit into it. Then, with a flickering left arm, body twisted in an odd position under me. She tore the arm off her own body with a slow and bloody rip. I heard the oddest sounds of flesh being rent from flesh. Through the cape came muffled groans. Tears glittered in her eyes. After what seemed like the eternity, the cat chucked the removed arm to the side. Blood dripped out from the stump from which the limb was removed. The limb, too, made a crimson mess on the grass. Is that enough for you, Alice? I nodded. Now get off! I stood up from the cat, feeling a wave of dizziness hit me along with a throbbing headache. She rolled over in pain and started pushing herself up, stumbling and falling a number of times onto the grass with an ugly red splat. Finally limping to her feet, the Cheshire Cat vanished. Now there was no more Cheshire Cat. Goodness! I picked up the severed right arm. The limb appeared different now that it was detached from the cat. The broken shackle about its wrist fell off without me having to do a thing. Alice, did you recognize this arm? Yes, I answered. This was the Red Queen's arm. A jolt of pain burst through my head. I did not know why I knew, and amidst my agony, I did not have the heart to care. I stumbled, clutching my head. The world warped and blurred around me. I felt dizzy, looking at the distorted landscape, or perhaps my dizziness itself distorted the landscape into an undulating thing that made me want to vomit. As my adrenaline drained, the results of the fight began to show themselves. My whole body felt sore. The raging headache pounding at my skull would not subside. Black and red began to fill my vision. Oh. The ground shifted beneath my feet. Maybe... Falling, falling, falling. Alice was falling. My world turned to darkness, and all I heard was laughter. Thump. At some point, I made my way back to the Hatter's place. Hello, Hatter. I handed over the limb I had just obtained. At least, from what I could tell from the passage of time, it should have only been recently that I had taken this limb from its past owner. I didn't know. The Hatter took the limb and threw it into the dog cage with the others. With this, you've gathered all of Her Majesty's limbs. Oh, so I have. You look terrible right now, Alice. Like us. Like us. I'm tired. Take a nap. Tea time isn't going anywhere. Not unless time grows back its severed head and walks away, don't you think? We can always talk a little later. Thank you. I slumped back into my armchair, sinking into the oddly scented cushions. Good night, Alice. This may be the last. I didn't hear what the Hatter said afterward. Over the raging white noise of my headache, my vision blurred, my eyes becoming watery. Eyelids heavy, I fell asleep. I'm calling it. My head is the what? My head is the Red Queen's head. Then I was dreaming, falling, falling into the dream. Tick, tock, tick, tock. I dreamt of a throne. A dark and terrible throne. So horribly cold. It was such a lonely throne. But the eye on the throne was arrogant and happy to be alone. No, I thought even she had someone she loved. A beautiful person. Yes, that person she loved was a beautiful person. So fragile and beautiful that she wanted to slowly tear off that person's wings. But her love was wrong. If she wasn't happy, then she would lose everything. Alice, Alice, you were exactly this person. No, I wasn't. Was I? As I opened my mouth to speak, blood began to leak through my lips. The only sound that came out was an empty gurgle. Were you happy? No. I could not talk. I could not taste. Even though red dripped down my chin, I felt as if my tongue had been snipped out. Blood choked me. Gasping in nothing but liquid, I grasped at my throat. Alice. I was drowning in this dream. You were never happy. Never. When I awoke, I forgot all that I had dreamt of. I opened my eyes to an empty feeling in my mind. Disoriented, I nearly rolled off my armchair, in which I had gone to sleep. I sat up and stifled a yawn, rubbing the bridge of my nose. Ah, okay. We are now in Chapter 3. And with that, everyone, I am going to call it for today. My throat is terribly sore. I may in fact go get some tea for myself after this. This game is turning out to be quite the experience. Quite the lovely ride, if I do say so myself. With the music in the background, let me go ahead and switch to my chatting screen. Can you suggest the raid? Well, let me see my own roster first. I do have some people that I would like to send a raid to already, Rip. So, if you don't mind, I will take the liberty here. Let me see. It has been a while since we've gone to go see, Mycelia. Oh, I'm getting tired too. Now my eyes are starting to get heavy. I wonder perhaps why that is. There we go. Thank you everyone so much for stopping by for this. I am definitely going to be resuming this, perhaps next week. I hope I'm not, like, ending the game right at the cusp of the ending. After all, we do finally have all the parts, which is, like, the objective of the game. But if and when, if that does turn out to be true, or next time I come to this, we're right at the end, then, I will merely go through all the different choices I could have had, and see what routes those lead to, be they dead ends or not. Part of me thinks I was really lucky and managed to steer clear of any dead ends. But thank you so much everyone, once again for stopping by. We will figure out the identity of the Red Queen yet, and perhaps see if Alice even has a home to return to. With that, I am Eris von Jabberwock, heir to the Jabberwock name. Ha 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 ha. To some of you, I may in fact be the Red Queen. But with that, I hope to see you all again very soon. And now, let us go show Mycelia some love, courtesy of the Jabberwocks. Bye bye.